Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jayam Vishnupad Prabhahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtottara Shri Srimad Divine Grace Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tosi Maharani Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to the Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Do you think you could get me a book, please? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Thank you. So this morning we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, entitled The Creative Impetus, Chapter 6, The Activities of Lord Rishabhadev. And we're on text 10.
Yena bhava kalo manujapasada Yena bhava kalo manujapasada Deva maya mohita Swavirini yoga shauchacharita vihina Deva helan yapavratani nijaneje chaya Grihnana Asnanana chamana shucha Shaucha kesho lunchanadini Kalina dharma bahuleno pahata diyo Brahma brahmana yagya purusha loka vidushakaha prayena bhavishyanti.
All right, now what should I do? All right. Translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Translation: people who are lowest among men and bewildered by the illusory energy of the Supreme Lord will give up the original Varnashram Dharma and its rules and regulations. They will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshiping the Lord. Abandoning cleanliness and neglecting the Supreme Lord, they will accept nonsensical principles, not regularly bathing or washing their mouths regularly. They will always remain unclean, and they will pluck out their hair. Following a concocted religion, they will flourish. During this age of Kali, people are more inclined to irreligious systems. Consequently, these people will naturally deride Vedic authority. Followers of Vedic authority, the Brahmins, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and the devotees. Purport. Presently, the hippies in the Western countries fit this description. They are irresponsible and unregulated. They do not bathe, and they deride standard Vedic knowledge. They concoct new lifestyles and religions. There are many hippie groups at the present moment, but they all originated from King Arhat, who imitated the activities of Lord Rishabhadev, who was situated on the Paramahamsa stage. King Arhat did not care for the fact that although Lord Rishabhadev acted like a madman, his stool and urine were nonetheless aromatic, so much so that they nicely scented the countryside for miles around. The followers of King Arhat went under the name Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are more or less offshoots of Mayavad philosophy because they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such people do not respect the real followers of Vedic principles, the ideal Brahmins, nor do they have respect for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Supreme Brahman. Due to the influence of this age of Kali, they are apt to concoct false religious systems. So who knows what apt means? Yes. Likely. Yeah. All right. They're likely to, or apt to concoct false religious systems. Om Jnanativedandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulan Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukam Karidavachalam Pangam Langa Tegirim Yakipatamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam Pancha Kapadivishcha Kripa Sindhu Bevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Srila Prabhupada was one time asked, what will happen if Krishna consciousness, everybody becomes devotees, Krishna consciousness spreads wide and far. Srila Prabhupada said, there'll be no more hippies. And then the news reporter asked him, what's a hippie? And then Srila Prabhupada said, you know better than me. And Prabhupada laughed and he said, something extraordinary. Or as Prabhupada said, I came to make the right hippies into happies. So in the 60s and 70s, there were a lot of hippies in New York City, and San Francisco especially, right? And those, you could say, were largely, at least, especially in San Francisco, those were largely the people that the devotees were preaching to, because those were the people who were around, hippies. So recently when we were on Harinam the other day, we're walking down boardwalk, Pacific Beach, and chanting Hare Krishna, and some guy he had like his guitar and his band there. He was playing music for money, and he stood up and he started dancing, and he liked the Harinam, and part of his guitar playing and all that, he had a bunch of shirts, bundles of shirts. You saw that guy? He gave us his business card. Yeah. So he gave me a shirt. It says Hidden Hippie. So anyways, and it's tie-dye. I guess hippies are into tie-dye for whatever reason. So anyways, I was thinking about wearing this shirt, but after I read this purport, I kind of changed my mind. Prabhupada's saying unclean and all that. No, I wasn't thinking about wearing it, but he gave it to me, and I have to figure out what to do with it, but I won't wear it. But hidden hippie. So Srila Prabhupada would say about the Mayavadis, he'd say that it's just like that river. What's the river called? No, you dig a little under and there's water. Huh? I can't. Palgu River, yeah, Palgu River. So the Palgu River it looks like it's a dry, a particular season, right? It's dry. It's a dry bed. And then if you just dig a little under, the water's there. So he said the Mayavadis, then personalists, they're like that externally they may seem very renounced. Maybe their diet's very restricted. Maybe their living situation's very simple. And so on, right? Everybody's seen austere people, or you could think of somebody who's very austere, simple. So the impersonalists, they take this to a very high degree. It means the real impersonalist. Like Prakashananda Saraswati and his followers before they became devotees. They were real impersonalists, and they were the level of sannyas that they were in terms of their austerity was extremely high. But Srila Prabhupada said that this impersonalist is like Palgu River. You just scratch the surface a little bit, and there's material desires there. So this shirt, it says hidden hippie. So it means that, or we could look at it like we shouldn't be like that. That, okay, externally we look like Gaudiya Vaishnavas, right? We have tilak, and we have mala, and we have beads in our hand, and externally, or we're engaged in activities of devotional service. But we shouldn't be like we scratch the surface and there's like a hippie there. Hippie. And what does that mean? Srila Prabhupada explains here. He didn't exactly answer the question to that reporter at the time, but he explains more in the purport his understanding or his answer. What is a hippie? Irresponsible and unregulated. So irresponsible and unregulated. So yeah, we have to be responsible. Human form of life, like Srila Prabhupada would say, okay, you have a big factory, right? And there's a bunch of workers there. Now, why does the CEO or why does the big boss get special facilities? And why is that? Who could say? The younger devotees. Why does he get special facility? It means he gets his own office or gets some special facilities. Why is that? Yeah, because he has the most amount of responsibility. Of course, yeah, so that's what Srila Prabhupada said. So similarly, in relation to different species of life, as souls, we happen to be in a particular species of life, right? Human species. We're not in the animal species. So, looking at the overall picture, right, of existence with all the different species, we're in a human species, the soul's in a human species, us as a soul. We could be in other species, right? Could be in a dog species or a hog species or whale or whatever. So, we're given more facility. In other words, our intelligence, our abilities are higher. You could say, oh, our ability to fly is not higher or something, right? Like a bird. But the intelligence, the ability to inquire, it is much more developed, right? Than animal species. So in other words, because we have more facility as humans, that means it's more of a life of responsibility. It's more of a life of responsibility. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada said that to be a hippie means to be irresponsible, to not really act as a human should. Means responsible. So, and what does it mean to be responsible? It doesn't mean, oh, well, I go to work 9 to 5, and I pay my mortgage, and I put food on the table, and I clothe my children and myself, and that doesn't mean that's not a human responsibility. Of course, you could say it's in the realm of responsibilities, but the real responsibility, or you could say the special facility that we have as humans is this higher intelligence. And to engage that in God realization, self-realization, Krishna consciousness, that's what it means to fulfill that responsibility or that duty as humans. Or else one is just living an irresponsible life. An unregulated life. So the brahmachari ashram, it's not meant to be like a place of irresponsibility. That, all right, great, I don't have the duties and responsibilities of a householder, so now I could just enjoy, right? Of course, there is enjoyment in the brahmachari ashram. It's supposed to be a blissful place, happy place, right? But happiness actually comes from responsibility. It doesn't come from like irresponsibility. In other words, brahmacharya is not like a bachelor pad or something. All right, great, a bunch of bachelors here and let's party out, break out the ginger brews and talk about Saturday night, brahmachari karaoke night or something where we talk about the horrors of association with the opposite sex and stuff, like the Woman Haters Club or something, it's and just indulge and yeah. So it's but it's supposed to be a responsibility, and responsibility actually, again, that is what makes us happy actually. Of course, engaged in material responsibilities doesn't make anybody happy. But spiritual responsibilities, it makes us happy. In other words, to take on some particular service. Yes, it's my service. We have ownership of it. I dress the deities, right? Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That is my service. And I'm taking ownership of it. And this is my responsibility. Or I distribute books, 5 days a week for so many hours a day. This is my responsibility. I'm taking responsibility for this. Or I'm taking responsibility for the lobby. The lobby's going to be clean. It's going to be the cleanest lobby in the whole of ISKCON America, right? So whatever it is, there's so many things. Every little inch of this property could be taken as a service to maintain it, to make it better. what to speak of the unlimited opportunities for spreading Krishna consciousness. You know, millions and billions of souls not knowing about Krishna. So to take responsibility is important, and that is a sign that our hippiness is fading or gone. That we take some responsibility. Now, it's also mentioned about bathing. They do not bathe, and they deride standard Vedic knowledge. So we see this, right? Talk to people sometimes at the Krishna Lounge or wherever. You know. Somehow or other it comes out, the guy hasn't bathed in a few months. I can't imagine it. It's just like unimaginable to not bathe for a few months. I mean, it's just. I mean, one guy, a devotee, was telling me he met somebody, and the guy said, "Yeah, I don't bathe. You know, it's because what's the point? You just get dirty again. You know, just keep on having to do it. You know." Or there was one devotee I know, he didn't brush his teeth before he joined. He didn't brush his teeth, like, ever. Like, for months. Like, literally, he didn't brush his teeth. Anyways. So, so bathing's important. I mean, traditional, right, just life within India, Brahminical life, or just any life, really, is that once upon rising in the morning, a person bathes immediately before they do anything else. They don't kind of hang out in their pajamas and whatever, just they bathe immediately. I was speaking with some devotees in Las Vegas when I visited there some time ago. From India. Of course, they're spirit souls, but anyways, their children were born here in India, in America. And they were complaining to me about their children, how they're kind of adopting American ways. And one thing the mother was telling me that, my daughter, she doesn't, she gets up and she doesn't bathe for like hours, Just sits around and until noontime or something. And she was really disturbed by that. So for a sattvic person to not be clean is just disturbing. It's just absolutely disturbing to the mind. So therefore Srila Prabhupada, Vedic culture says you bathe right upon rising. And it's mentioned here, not just once, like Srila Prabhupada says here, does he say here more than once? This doesn't say in this purport, huh? That's interesting. Does he say? It says 3 times. That's what I thought. So much so that the nicely sent of the country, the followers of King Arhat went under the name Jains, and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are more or less offshoots of Mayavad philosophy. Such people do not respect themselves. Excuse me. It's in the translation. Where is it? Oh yeah, there you go. They will abandon bathing 3 times daily and worshiping the Lord. So, to bathe more than once is necessary. Bathe more than once a day. So we shouldn't try to kind of wiggle our way out of it. Oh, hey, nobody's watching. All right, I don't got to bathe, because certain activities are just, sleeping, for example, it's contaminated. To bathe, it's not that just one is bathing their physical body, but also water, it also purifies the subtle body, and specifically cold water. So after you could say certain activities, we have to bathe. It's just part of the process. And And we'll see that it does help our consciousness. It does help our consciousness. Interesting enough, Dharmaseta Prabhu some time ago, he said that there was some study here in America, I believe, and the study was they're studying about depression, how to get free from depression. There's a lot of depression in the world. Mostly because people are, one, trying to fulfill their lusty desires, and two, they're failing at fulfilling their lusty desires. It's both depressing. One, to try to fulfill your lusty desires, that's depressing. Two, is that upon trying to fulfill your lusty desires and failing, that's also depressing. So, and this also gives proof to the devotees. It gives faith. We should have confidence and faith that we're on the right path, because the whole material world, it's glorifying lust, headed by this sexual lust. It glorifies it at every single continent, practically on every street, right? Billboards all over, and it's just all in the air, literally. You know, it's flying through this room right now. Can't see it. Lust, lust, lust. And they say, you'll be happy by being just satisfying your lust, right? Romantic lust, you'll be happy. Okay, if that was the case, the whole material world right now, everyone in it would be in absolute ecstasy, practically speaking. Or at least a lot of people would be in ecstasy, because there's a lot of people acting on those desires. So why isn't everybody in ecstasy? Why isn't everybody skipping down the street, right? Why is there so much depression? Because they're trying to fulfill their material desires and failing. Even if they do succeed to fulfill, they're still unhappy. So, I was going to say something else. Huh? Yes, bathing, how it cures depression. So this particular study said that by bathing in cold water, that helps with depression. Pretty interesting. So it purifies the subtle body. Said that as well. So cold water is also important. Yeah. So then Prabhupada says that there are many hippie groups that at the present moment, but they all originated from King Arhat, who imitated the activities of Lord Rishabhadev. So you have this Arhat Maharaj who imitated Rishabhadev. It's pretty interesting, right? Some Arhat Maharaj imitating Lord Rishabhadev. I don't exactly know how he was imitating. I don't know if he was walking around naked or what, but that's what Rishabhadev was doing. But he was imitating Lord Rishabhadev. So this is important, because we shouldn't imitate great personalities if we're not on that particular level of realization. Just like Paramahamsas, we don't imitate the Paramahamsas like Rishabhadev, or the Avaduts like Nityananda Prabhu or others. Or Srila Prabhupada would say often about Haridas Thakur, to imitate Haridas Thakur, right? If one could chant Hare Krishna 24 hours a day and actually chant and not think about a bunch of material things, then okay, fine. But to imitate Haridas Thakur, oh, I'm chanting Hare Krishna, right? And to be thinking about I can't do any service, Prabhu. I'm too busy imitating the Haridas Thakur, right? If we're thinking about all types of material things, better just, do some service. Means engage our in some other service than chanting. So it's a common thing amongst hippies. They like to, or people in general, they like to try to imitate people. Mahabhagavats, or sometimes devotees like to imitate Mahabhagavats, or the topmost devotees. In other words, I don't have to follow any of the rules and regulations that protect myself from falling down in spiritual life. I could just do more or less whatever I want, right? I'll go out on book distribution. I'm speaking to a bunch of men in this room, by the way, whoever's listening on. Maybe listening online. Of course, you're there too, but maybe there's some ladies in the Zoom audience, but for the men, they think, oh yeah, I'll just go out on Sankirtan, I'll go out on book distribution, and because I'm such a Paramahamsa, because I'm so advanced, every woman I give a book to, I'll embrace her as well, because I'm pure spirit soul and she's pure spirit soul. All right, we'll see how long that works out. In other words, to descend to the material platform. Of course, the person's already on the material platform, but they descend further to the material platform. It means on the bodily concept of life. Yeah. Or vice versa for women also, right? Go out and so we have to speak according to our realization, and we have to act according to our realization. In the sense that someone say, all right, well, my realization is not so high, so I'm just going to, act in all types of mundane ways. Specifically referring to we have to act according to realization, speak according to realization, means that not try to act in more spiritual ways than we're actually qualified to, or speak in more spiritual ways than we're actually qualified to. So yeah, that's important. Now, the followers of King Arhat went under the name Jains. Now, this particular class, these particular purports, it's not something that we're going to read at an interfaith convention, right? With a bunch of Jains there. And we have a few purports in relation to Buddhists as well, and in relation to, anyways, so many different religions. But we're not going to read this in an interfaith convention. Interfaith, where all religions get together and try to see the unity and sameness, and this is kind of difficult this would be kind of difficult for Jains to accept, right? That their particular process is coming from originally coming from Rishabhadev, who King Arhat imitated, who Srila Prabhupada says the followers of King Arhat are under the name of Jains. So, of course, I don't mean to, I'm not, whatever, trying to belittle anyone or anything like that. But Jains, they're known to be nonviolent, right? Which is good. I mean, it's important. I mean, it's actually, out of all the religions in the world, or out of all the spiritual paths or processes in the world, they're, in terms of nonviolence, if you look at modern day Christianity, if you look at modern day Buddhism, if you look at etc., the Jains are following this principle of nonviolence, especially in relation to diet. I mean, right? If you go on the airport, you say, "Oh, I have a Jain." I mean, it's all nonviolent, right? So they're following that. So on a lighter note, if some of them were to read this purport, right, they may become angry and upset, and we could say we're glad that they're nonviolent. In other words, they're not going to come after us, right? Anyways, Hare Krishna. So and they were later followed by many others, particularly by the hippies, who are more or less offshoots of the Mayavad philosophy because they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, hippies, they may not know about the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Srila Prabhupada says they think themselves the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, what does exactly that mean? Some of them know about Krishna, and they may think themselves Krishna. But some of them may just subconsciously, right? Oh, we're all God. We're all the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whatever name you want to call it, man. We're all God, They want to take the position as the Supreme Enjoyer, or give it to others as well. Okay, we're all the Supreme Enjoyer. So this is some thoughts that Srila Prabhupada thinks about the hippies. He doesn't think irresponsible, unregulated, not bathing, deriding standard Vedic knowledge, and more or less Mayavadis. So, such people do not respect the real followers of Vedic principles, the ideal Brahmins, nor do they respect the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Due to the influence of this age of Kali, they are apt to concoct false religious systems. So there's many false religious systems in the world, and people are coming up with stuff yearly or every decade, different spiritual processes. And it's the business of the devotees to know what is what and who is who. In other words, for them to be fixed in real transcendental knowledge. And aside from being fixed in real transcendental knowledge, devotees have to be present for people. We're here, the Hare Krishna temple's here in San Diego for one purpose only, practically speaking, and that is to deliver the message of Krishna to these people. Or else we have no business here in San Diego. Might as well just go to Vrindavan, which also there's a lot of, but Prabhupada said Vrindavan's full of Mayavadis, actually. He said that. So there's a lot of preaching in Vrindavan as well. But, or we could just pack up and, go to some holy place. Whatever holy place. So the business here is to give the message of Krishna. So for those, so we should always keep that in mind. Even if our main service is not book distribution, for example, devotees should always be loaded and ready. Not loaded like high, that's a term, right? But loaded and ready means that they go out to shop, right? We have some shoppers in the room, or they're riding their bike, or they're walking down here, or walking there, or going here, or going there, right? Devotees are moving about the city. They should always have books in their bags or whatever, in their car. They should always have books, because we don't know when we're going to meet somebody. Like, for example, the other day, or invitation cards, something to extend, right? Of course, books are most important. But so the other day, Jamal and myself were walking when he was here. We took a walk, walking, and we're heading back to the temple. And then at the sushi place, there was a couple sitting there, and then we walked by them. Then Jamal says, "Oh, I think I follow her on Instagram. She's a baker. Jamal likes to bake. Anybody who knows Jamal likes to bake. So she says, I think I follow her on Instagram. She's a really famous baker here in San Diego." And I said, "All right, well, why don't you, go back and confirm, see if that's actually her, and give her an invitation to the Krishna Lounge." So I had some invitations. So I gave Jamal the invitation. Then he walked back, and it was her. He said, "Oh," he talked to her. "Yeah, I follow you on Instagram. You're a great baker. She bakes all types of cupcakes, this and that. And, oh, here's our Krishna Lounge." And she said, "Oh yeah, I've been there before." And she was with her boyfriend. "Yeah, I've been there before too. And yeah, we'll come by." And so then while they were talking over there, I happened to be standing in front of a bar, which is called The Dog. Anyways, I guess you could allow your dogs in there or something, but. Anyways, so this guy walks out. He's an Indian guy, and he's got a football jersey on because the football game's going on, and he's got his beer in his hand, and he goes, "Hare Bol!" And I go, "Yeah, Hare Krishna." And he goes, "Yeah, he said, are you I forgot what the football whatever team was. I never followed football, but I forgot." He said, "Are you a so-and-so fan?" And he said, "Maybe you could come in and, he could, bless the game." And I said, "Yeah, I'm not a fan. And, yeah, I'm not going to come. No, I have to be somewhere. I have to be back at the temple." And he said, "Oh, is today Prasad Day?" It was Sunday or whatever. He said, "Is today Prasad Day?" And I said, "Yeah, I guess." And anyways, he was talking to me, and he said, "Anyway, send some good karma our way." And he said, I feel kind of weird with this beard in my hand. So he put his, talking to you, he said he's put his beard down. And then this American, girl came up, they were friends, and they were talking about the game and this and that. So anyways, I said, all right, well, here, take a card. So I gave him a Krishna Lounge card. Maybe he'll come by. But that was the first time I had some Indian guy with the football jersey come out and say, Hare Bol, with his beer in his hand. But, so yeah, but books, flyers, we should have it in our mind that we're here for people, to give people the message of Krishna. And they say that, right, they have that saying, the camel, or the straw that broke the camel's back. So the more we could be in people's like getting people's I'm gonna say faces, but the more we could get in people's minds, the better. Because they'll think, oh man, maybe this is a divine sign. I should come to the temple. I saw this guy at Balboa, saw this guy at SDSU, this guy gave me a card at Restaurant Depot, whatever, I'm seeing him everywhere. Like Savas Prabhu, we'll wrap up here, but Savas Prabhu, when he was young brahmachari in Colorado, the temple president in Los Angeles, the present temple president, he said that they were out and about, all the brahmacharis, and there's like 4 brahmacharis, something like this, not that many. And then he met somebody, and that person said, how many are there of you guys? There must be like hundreds. He said, I see you guys everywhere. You're at the concerts, you're at the colleges, you're here, you're like everywhere. I can't get away from you. And Savas Prabhu said, there's like 4 of us. So the more we could extend invitation to people, the more likely they'll come. They need some, need to be shaken up a little bit. So, for example, lastly, there was this person. She came to the temple on Thursday, and I asked her how she came to the temple. She said, "Oh, my brother gave me a book some time ago," and then she said, "And my friend is Michelle. Those of you who know Michelle. She says, my friend Michelle. She's been inviting me." And then I got a book today at SDSU. So it was, 3. So I said, oh, you're getting some calls, trying to get your attention. So the more we could, there's so much confusion in the material world, so many false religious systems, so much ignorance going on. So the more we could extend ourselves, the more people are likely to come and be benefited. So. Okay, does anybody have any in-house questions or comments?
Hare Krishna?
Yes, we just have Dimitri here, and then we'll take yours.
Thank you very much. I can wait.
Okay.
Okay, thank you for the class. My question is about, so there's a lot of people very confused in this world, in the Western world and everywhere. How does one understand his position in a social order in the modern world, which is such a very dark and confusing place for people?
Yeah. Okay. That's a good question. Well, Prabhupada, he wanted to establish Daivi Varnashram, which is Krishna in the center. Varnashram, Varna, Ashram. So Varnas are particular inclinations towards work, right? Like Brahmins, teaching, Kshatriyas, protecting, Vaishyas, business or farming, cow protection, Shudras, laborers, right? Working. Those are different inclinations. And there's different ashrams. Brahmachari, the students, householders, the householders. Married persons, vanaprasthas, the retired, and the sannyasis, renounced, mendicants traveling. So how do we, first of all, it's quite a mission to establish varnashram because you have all this city life going on, which is just like completely opposite of varnashram. And you have us being a more or less new movement in the Western world, and then you have the idea of farm communities, and it's going to take a little time to set up Daivi Varnashram. But we still have this idea of vanaprasthas, sannyasis, brahmacharis, householders, and how we're engaged in particular work, right? So how are we supposed to know what type of work we should engage in or what type of ashram we should be in? Well, Srila Prabhupada said that we could tell by, one, our particular inclinations, is that one, is that we like doing something, a particular activity, and we're good at it. We like it and we're good at it. We're happy and we're good at it. And two is that other people also think that we're good at it. This is indication of what we should be doing. Now, in terms of like work, you could say. Now, in terms of ashram, well, we have to be happy. Now, of course, nowadays it's not so simple because Kali Yuga has really jumbled things up, right? Just to be happy, it's a simple thing, but sometimes complicated. Sometimes people are miserable in every ashram, right? But there's some indications about particular ashrams, whether one could be a brahmachari, sannyasi, or householder, vanaprastha, where one should fall, and that is where one should, be situated. And that may take some time to realize that. So therefore, it's recommended that devotees, specifically, that devotees live as brahmacharis, or Srila Prabhupada instituted this brahmacharini ashrams, but the devotees live as brahmacharis, and they clear their mind. Because there's a lot of, it's like a sponge, we're like in many ways the conscious is like a sponge, right? So throughout our whole lives, our consciousness is like a sponge, and what is our consciousness absorbed? A bunch of maya, So the brahmachari ashram is like a squeezing, getting the sponge of our consciousness and just squeezing it out, right? All the maya out as far as possible, right? Just squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. And that means service, chanting, so many different things, right? And then once our consciousness is cleared a little bit, then we start filling it up, because our consciousness is like a sponge. We fill it up with the messages of Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name, and so on. And then once our consciousness has been cleared and then purified more, then over some time, things become more clear, what we should do. In consultation with one's Shiksha gurus, with one's Diksha guru, and with senior devotees, what I should do. I'm thinking about doing this, I'm thinking about doing that. I say, oh, that's not really, we don't really, you should do this, or you should do that. So that's a little bit about that. You have a comment about that, Dimitri?
Thank you very much. It's a spectacular answer to my question.
All right, thank you. I think Amoga Leela.
Hare Krishna?
Yeah, Govardhan has something. Yes.
Yes, I can wait, no problem.
So in the purport, it was discussing about bathing 3 times a day. And you said taking a shower bathes the external body
yeah.
and as well as the subtle body with cold water. So
Yeah.
why is taking a nice warm shower not good for us?
Why isn't it good? Well, one, especially in the morning, may put you back to sleep, right? It's like, oh man, this is very comfortable. And then you go to Mangal Arati, and one is that you may, after your shower, just like, man, I'm feeling really relaxed now, I'm comfortable, let me get back in my sleeping bag. Or you might say at Mangal Arati, maybe a little groggy, whatever. Yeah, groggy, right? Doesn't really wake you up. Try hopping in I met this devotee in Portland, young man, Bhakta. I have to contact him, actually. He's quite nice. But anyways, he said that he lives by a river in Oregon. And he said every morning at like 4 a.m., 4:30, whatever, what he was doing, and he was putting it on his Facebook Live and everything, but he would walk to the river, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And he's married too, he has children, but he's Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. And there's a rope swing, and he'd go on the rope swing, and that was like his first morning bath in this cold water. So it really wakes you up. Now there is some, yeah. So warm may put you to sleep, but there is some, like Bhakti Vikas Swami, if somebody wants to accept his statements from the Brahmachari Handbook, he does say there is some room for, warm water, which opens the pores and then, cleanses with whatever soap and all that. Soap is also important. In Manu Samhita, which is an ancient scripture, they didn't use soap, but it was like a mud, which is equivalent of a soap. It's cleansing, right? So soap is important. Soap's not Maya. That's what I'm saying. Some devotees I've seen that they think soap is Maya or something. I think this is a bit of a hippie influence, but anyways, so the hot water opens the pores, right? Cleanses, and then the cold water closes the pores. So then when you get out, actually, if you take a hot shower, then you get out and it's cold, you actually be more cold. Or if you take a warm shower, whatever, and then cold, cold, and then you get out, then the pores close, and then less cold. But anyways, those are some things. But so you open the pores and there's chlorine going. So anyways, there's different ways to see it. But cold water is important. That's the main thing. So yes, Amoga, Leela.
Just a comment. I heard Vaisheshika Prabhu say, he specifically was referencing book distribution, but I think it applies to any kind of preaching, Harinam, or even if you're at the grocery store and you distribute a book or give out a card or something like that. But he was saying that that a community is like a living organism, and when devotees go out, whether it's book distribution, whether it's Harinam, whether it's whatever, and they extend themselves, and then they come back in, and then they bring in stories, or they're enlivened, and it enlivens the other devotees. It's like the breathing of the community. So anyway,
nice.
I thought that was kind of nice. It gives life to the whole thing.
Yes, yeah, preaching. One who has life can preach, right? All right, Vijay.
Balaram Prabhu, thank you very much. Related to cleanliness,
yes.
Srila Prabhupada said, I want revolutionary cleanliness. So my question is, what is the meaning of the word revolutionary in this quote?
Okay. Well, Srila Prabhupada said that if you're clean, cleanliness is next to godliness. But then Srila Prabhupada said, no, cleanliness is godliness. And he said, if you remain dirty, Krishna will remain 1,000,000 miles away, or whether it's 1,000,000 or 10,000, it's a long ways away, right? So Prabhupada wanted things clean. And cleanliness is sattva gun, right? It is a sign of clean consciousness. It's a sign that devotees are chanting their rounds, actually, properly. If devotees aren't chanting their rounds properly, they'll be okay in dirtiness. Oh, it's not so bad, right? The shower is not so bad. No, it actually is bad. For example, I'm not saying this one, but so it's a sign of sattva gun. And Srila Prabhupada said revolutionary cleanliness means that people should walk in and they should, wow, this is amazing. Like, I can't believe how clean it is. Like, I've never seen a place so clean. So that's what he means by revolutionary cleanliness, that it should be outstandingly never before seen type of cleanliness, which is a tall order in many ways. But it's possible, and right, we're going to have our Gundicha Marjana soon. Our Dimitri made a flyer that's going to be sent out to whoever, I'm not sure exactly, but then there's going to be some cleansing of the temple. November 11th. So, anyways, that's something about that.
Yes, Prabhu, better than something. Again, wonderful answer to my question.
All
Hare
right.
Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna. All right. Grantraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Shri Prabhupada ki